Welcome to Tactics and Marketing. This is another episode of myself. My name is Chris Milton, and I go through all of the questions that I get asked as a marketing guy and somebody who runs a marketing agency that focuses on growth and engagement. And that, my background is actually something that I get asked about a fair bit. And the question that we're covering in today's episode is, should I be looking at hiring someone for my company's marketing? Or should I be looking at an agency or a freelancer? So let's talk about this a little bit because I think it's not straightforward for everybody. The way that I look at it is first off, marketing tasks are divided into three different categories. The first one is projects, things that you don't need to be doing all the time. They have a very distinctive start and finish. In this category, think about rebranding or building your website or throwing an event. It's something where it starts and it stops, and you don't know necessarily when you're going to be doing it again. In the case of a rebrand, you probably may not even have it on your road for rebranding in the next few years, and that's probably a good thing. The second category are ongoing tasks. And these are things that are designed to be maintenance oriented, growth oriented. But the most important part of it is that it's consistent and it drives momentum. And so this is where we get hired for most services is because it is something like a podcast that's coming out every week, or a blog post that you're adding on your website twice per week, or a social media post that you're having every day, or a newsletter that you're sending out. There's a cadence to what you're doing with it. It is considered maintenance because it's something that you know is an excellent baseline to show that there's activity and content and things that are happening positively. And it may also include things that are, changing a staff who's got a new position or a new hire that's added to your company. Those things happen on a regular basis. And depending on how many of those things you're doing, I think that's probably the first place that people may consider saying, well, I've got tasks that happen on a regular basis. Maybe it'd be easier to do something in house. So that's the second category. The third category are the things that are either administration or glue. And the reason that I think this is probably the most difficult thing to figure out is because it is not based in your marketing, it's based on what's connected to your marketing. Every organization has a different need that they're trying to cover with how they're interacting with their customers or their clients or their donors, whoever is helping your business run, your stakeholders. These people, in some cases, can be very transactional, like an e commerce site. They show up on your website, they purchase something, you talk with them during the sale, maybe there's some post sale follow up service, and that's it. On the other hand, there are really large client relationships that are B2B. And even though there's activity that's happening on a regular basis to serve that client, there's technically a transaction that is, you can either look at it either way. One, it's a transaction that could be a 5 year contract, or you could see it as a contract that means you're working with that person every day and day in and day out. The things that you do with your marketing to facilitate these organizational activities is really important to make sure that you have things connected in the right way. And let's start there in terms of agency or freelancer or an employee. I think connecting those things is something that can be outside of the expertise of somebody that you want to hire in house. But then that falls into the project category. So, like connecting your website forms with your CRM and having an email funnel in place that's connected to all of the different ads that you're running. Yeah, that's something that needs to be set up once. But then the maintenance of that and making sure that the sales team is getting the leads and that the information that is coming from customer surveys is getting back to your R&D team. Those things are things I feel fall best into the hands of an employee that you have that's hired in house, unless you're fully outsourcing everything. And if you're looking to outsource a marketing department, that's where all of that whole ecosystem, where customer facing is somewhere that you're hiring someone like us, like 323 Media. And the point of that is you would need to have that marketing leadership in the agency that you're working with. So you'd be looking at a CMO package, the chief marketing officer, who's actually in charge of all of those leadership decisions. And that CMO, that fractional CMO, is also someone who should probably be engaged with some of the organizational level strategy, working with your board, your shareholders, all of the leadership decisions that are happening from the direction of the organization, and then driving the marketing to be presented to you in terms of what's recommended. So if you're not going that full on as the marketing outsourcing, then the employee managing those day-to-day tasks is probably the easiest, because all of the different touch points with the different people in different departments is all in-house. And then we can start looking at some of the other tasks. So if we were to look at all of the different skills that it would take to do most marketing jobs, it comes down to good, better, best. If you're putting out a report that is going out quarterly, that's something that can easily be researched in-house, and you probably have an analyst or somebody that's doing that. But the level of polish that you want it to have when you're going out can be very different. It could be your standard template that's within a Word doc that is not hugely formatted or overly designed and doesn't have as much graphics to support what you're doing. And it looks kind of like a very polished draft, versus some of the things that we get hired to do is we will get that very polished draft, and then that turns into communications for shareholders, or an annual report, or a research paper. And the idea is that it's designed to look more polished and more glossy. And so again, that then falls into the outsourced department, because you may not have enough work in house for that graphic designer to be taking on those projects and making that feel like it's worth the full-time effort year round, because they're too specialized. And asking that graphic designer to then learn how a CRM works, it doesn't really make sense. So I think that's where that threshold again comes to some of these shared tasks. I personally wouldn't want to outsource some of the research aspect of it when all of the research is about what's happening in house, unless you had, an audit that was going on for your accounting. But I think that's where you need to draw that line of what information is in house that you're going to be taking care of and utilizing and needing to interact with, and then being able to look at how you supplement outsourcing with either a freelancer or an agency. And again, if you were to look at going 100% as outsourcing your full marketing department, find somebody who meets everything on your checklist. Because as much as everybody's moving in the same direction and trying to get things done for you in the best manner, there are a lot of different ecosystems that are within the marketing world. And I think there's a bigger opportunity now. And hint, hint, if you're looking to start an agency or be a freelancer, there's a really big opportunity to be choosing the right ecosystem to work within. And that's a specific tool set, a specific software suite, um, being able to have a specific type of website that you design. So in that case, here's an example. It would make more sense if you only designed on WordPress or Squarespace or Shopify. And the reason is, the more that you do within that one platform, the better you're going to be as the expert. So as a business owner who's looking to outsource and find someone to help on your website, know what your platform is. And more importantly, know if that's a non-negotiable to change. Because in some cases, changing from that platform can be a huge cost in itself. That cost has to be worth it. And so that's something I think you have to keep in mind. The second is when there's even bigger decisions of understanding how things work. You may have the right person that you want to work with, but they don't know anything about your CRM or your email funnel or your overall sales generation tactics. They may not feel comfortable working in that space. And that's something you need to be aware of. If I were to say specifically and talk to somebody who is asking for YouTube ads, let's say, versus Facebook ads versus Google AdWords. Personally, we have three different specialists for each of those things because they function so differently. We want to be working with the best that's working in a specific area, and you should too. So I think that's kind of the way that I'm going to sum it up and leave it there. I'm happy to be talking with you more and answering more questions about what situations would be there. Maybe that'll be a future episode as well of, hey, I've got this tech stack and this is what we're doing and this is what we're trying to do. What do you recommend? How do I find the right person? If you do, let me know. Go to tacticsofmarketing.com. You can ask your questions there. You can email us as well. And I think this is something that is a pretty big conversation about how to choose the right talent, because I think this is what draws in more poor spending with marketing budgets than anything else, which is choosing to spend in the wrong places. And we certainly don't want to see or hear from people that, wasted money to change their whole website platform only to really see a marginal change when those are dollars that were taken away from active marketing. So let's just recap that real quick, because this is a little bit longer than we usually cover with the questions. But number one, if you're going to have somebody in-house, they should be managing those administrative and glue tactics that are designed to be functioning day to day and that really require a ton of information and a ton of connections within your own organization. And so this is something you could even test drive with a current person that just understands how you function really well. And that's something that can start working up to them saying, yes, I understand this, that makes sense, but then I'm hitting a roadblock here. The second is looking at overall big projects where you're pulling in experts just for that project, like building a website or a rebrand or changing over your CRM or an email marketing funnel, and getting those things set up and completed so that you can get back to managing it on a regular basis. And then in between, as we have those management, maintenance, and momentum building things, I find that this is probably the place where we find the most work. Those are the things where the content waterfall makes the most sense, is being able to create and produce all the podcast episodes that fuel SEO and content marketing and social media posts that just build over time and grow and grow and grow. So that is it. I hope this helps you out in terms of making some decisions with your marketing of where you can find the best skills and help it grow from there. But if you have a question, happy to hear it. Looking forward to getting more information out there on all of the things marketing related. Again, my name is Chris Milton. This is Tactics of Marketing. We'll see you in the next one.